This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. TC Energy has reported to a federal court that it intends to start construction on the Keystone XL pipeline next month, trenching to begin in April. Prior to that, the company plans to move heavy equipment to sites for worker camps, pump stations, pipe yards, and the first crossing at the U.S.-Canada border. An attorney with the Native American Rights Fund says the company is jumping the gun. Victoria Wicks reports.
Wesley Furlong says TC's announcement is disappointing, but not unexpected. He says TC has tried for some time to start significant construction so that government agencies will feel compelled to grant permissions. Furlong says even pre-construction is invasive and destructive.
These activities are threats to the tribe's resources and their lands and their people. Certainly, even if they're not necessarily digging trenches and laying pipeline.
Furlong represents the Rosebud Sioux Tribe and Fort Belknap Indian community in their suit against President Donald Trump for violating treaties and tribal laws when he issued a permit for the pipeline. Late last year, federal judge Brian Morris denied a request from pipeline opponents to place an injunction on the project. At the time, construction was not imminent. Judge Morris said in his order that he would reconsider the request if the situation changed. Furlong says now the situation has changed.
This accelerated construction proposal is certainly a factor in considering the tribe's next move and ensuring that their resources are protected and the treaties are respected and honored.
TC still has to get permits from the Bureau of Land Management, and the EPA is reviewing the most recent supplemental environmental impact statement with a January 21st closing date. TC plans to start trenching in Nebraska in June and in Montana and South Dakota in August, with construction to continue in the 2021 season. For National Native News, I'm Victoria Wicks in Rapid City, South Dakota.
A dozen tribal leaders are expected to take part in the Great Sioux Nation Tribal Address Thursday in South Dakota after leaders decided to skip the annual tribal state legislative speech being held on the same day. The speech to the legislature will take place before the tribal leaders event. Crow Creek Chairman Lester Thompson is scheduled to address state lawmakers. The annual speech lays out tribal priorities and is intended to strengthen tribal-state relations, but some leaders are boycotting the speech after being at odds with the state. Tensions have been over the governor's pro-oil development stance and protesting laws. Tribal leaders will deliver the Great Sioux Nation speech to provide their people an outline of successes and challenges. Both events will be streamed online. Climate change, sacred site protection, and missing and murdered Indigenous women were among topics of discussion Wednesday at the Four Directions and Nevada Tribal Nations Native American Presidential Forum 2020 in Las Vegas. Attendees heard from Democratic presidential hopefuls. Former Mayor Pete Buttigieg participated in a pre-recorded interview with an organizer of the event. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard and Senator Elizabeth Warren took part in live streaming videos. Businessman Tom Steyer attended the forum in person, while Senator Bernie Sanders gave an address and a pre-recorded video message, and former Vice President Joe Biden sent a letter. The candidates touched on policy issues and mentioned how they'd work with tribes if elected president. Independent candidate Mark Charles, who's Navajo, spoke at the forum in person Tuesday. Organizers ended the forum saying they'll continue to put pressure on candidates to include Indian country in the presidential race. Candlelight vigils were held in 3 Alaska towns Wednesday night for Kristen Huntington. Advocates, Indigenous groups, and members of the Alaska Native community are seeking to raise awareness of violence against Native women. Huntington went missing last week in Fairbanks and was later found dead in a vacant apartment. KTUU reports police are investigating her death as a homicide. I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Like the circle of life, there is an opportunity that comes around every 10 years, a chance to participate and let our voice be heard. It lets others know who we are and where we are. The 2020 census will be our opportunity to shape our future for generations to come. Shape our future. Start here. Learn more at 2020census.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Census Bureau.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.